Founders are very good at just going straight to execution, but sometimes we got to think through our ideas to make sure we end up in the right place. It's almost like a boat leaving a harbor. Like you want to make sure you end up in the right place instead of randomly in the middle of the ocean.
Dr. Iman Abuzeid's first startup fizzled out and left her stuck in the middle of that ocean. But the lessons she learned led her to an undeniable North Star in moving forward. That North Star? Listening to the pain points of her customers.
We spoke with nurses and really, heard the urgency in their voice. It was almost like an emotional experience for them in terms of just the problems that they're tackling.
Iman saw an opportunity to disrupt the way nurses get hired that would benefit everyone involved. That's why she co-founded Incredible Health, a marketplace for healthcare professionals. Incredible Health now boasts more than 1 million healthcare workers on the platform and has reached a valuation of nearly $1.7 billion.
This is Masters of Scale.
This week on the show, we'll hear how Iman Abuzeid's strategic approach to scale fueled the massive growth of Incredible Health. But first, we wanted to hear how she ended up getting bitten by the entrepreneurship bug after graduating from medical school. Iman, welcome to Masters of Scale.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're thrilled to have you. Like so many of the founders and leaders who have scaled companies in extraordinary ways, you're an immigrant. You didn't grow up here. Tell us a little bit about where you grew up.
Sure. So I'm originally from Sudan. That's where my parents are from. I lived in Saudi Arabia, in the Emirates, in the UK. I immigrated to the US when I was 24 years old. And I, worked in management consulting in New York City, and then moved to Philadelphia to do my MBA at Wharton, and then moved to the San Francisco Bay Area.
And when you came here to do management consulting. That was your first role here, is that right?
It was the first role, yes.
The paths out of management consulting are many. There are varied paths. Going down an entrepreneurial path is not what a lot of management consultants do. It's taking on the risk yourself. It's having to give yourself the advice that you might be giving to others as a consultant. What inspired you to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I I went to medical school in London, so I'm an MD by background. And if we just go back to even that time period, I was always interested in having a big impact, right? Don't get me wrong, like working as a doctor is a wonderful career and I recommend it to everyone. However, I really wanted to find a way to make an impact on a much larger scale. So after medical school, moved to New York, work in management consulting. That the benefit of that profession is that it just A, I grew a lot of skills, and B, just exposed me more to business. And then certainly the MBA at Wharton helped me do that even further. But for entrepreneurship, I genuinely believe, I think entrepreneurship is it's like the epitome of what you can do with your career in business. Like I think it's amazing. It's like, imagine like a small group of people can transform an entire industry. Like it's magic. It's like the coolest thing.
What led you to move out to the Bay, and how did you end up starting on an entrepreneurial journey?
I have a belief that the San Francisco Bay Area is still the world's capital of technology. If you want to start a company, especially a software company, it still is the best place, and that's for so many reasons, right? The capital, the talent, the ideas, the network. Like it's just a really amazing place to start a company. So I knew I was, finishing business school in 2013. Like there was only one plan: move to the Bay Area. I joined as I joined as a product manager at an early stage healthcare technology company, and that's really where I got exposed to software engineers and data scientists and designers, and got to learn what it takes to actually build products that users love and how to grow them as well. And so after doing that for a couple of years, left with a star software engineer that I was working with, Rome Portlock, who is a total whiz, went to MIT. He's a fantastic engineer as well. And we left to co-found a company.
That's not the company you now have co-founded and you're running. What was that company?
Yeah, so we actually started working on another idea, and we worked on it for about a year, which didn't actually work. It was actually a app for that helped small and medium healthcare businesses like chiropractors, physical therapists, so on, retain their clients. So it helped them, engage with them between sessions and so on. And so it was live. There was revenue coming in, but we were really struggling with growing it. And so we made the decision after, gosh, a year of working on it to pivot to a different idea.
And so just take us back if you would. You and Rome are at a fairly early stage company. How does it come to be that you leave and start a company together? What actually catalyzed that decision to do that with each other?
I'm a big fan of thinking through, well, what is your goal in 5 to 10 years and then work backwards from there. So I knew at age, in my 20s, like, hey, I know I want to start a company. So what's the path to get there? One path is get to the Bay Area. Another path is start, you don't know, you don't have enough skills. So like become a product manager first. So all of that, that was like the ultimate goal at the end of the day. And then Rome is he's my co-founder, he's our CTO. I, encouraged him to join me on the journey. And I don't think he has any regrets around joining me on this
Well,
journey.
given where you are today, I have to imagine not. So you all are working at this other company. You come up with this idea. Do you start working on it while you're there, or do you all leave, burn the boats behind you, and say we're doing this and we're all in on this concept? We're going to go build a company.
Yeah, no, we left. So we were working on a company full time. Now, one of the things that happened around that time is joining um, a team called NFX. NFX is today it's a Series Seed and Series A fund. At the time, it was a fund plus an accelerator, and so we
Mhm.
joined their accelerator program. And that is actually where Rome and I just made the decision to pivot. And it was great to work with, James Currier and Pete Flint and Gigi Weiss Levy in terms of figuring out what to do next. And so they were awesome thought partners as well.
Had you all raised money against the initial concept, or were you bootstrapping it? Where were you in your process?
Yeah, we were bootstrapping. We didn't raise meaningful capital until we started Incredible Health. So what we did was, part of this framework is when you have an idea, really think through the market size, um, think through the competition, and then think through your unique insights. Like, what have you figured out that is so much, that is 10x, at least 10x, smarter, better, faster, cheaper, more compliant, whatever it is, than what's already out there. And then after that, if it's meeting, those three criteria, market size, competition, and unique insight, then go really deep on the market research and the customer research. Um, so we did that with a few ideas and ultimately decided to go with the Incredible Health idea. Um, to share a bit more about our thought process at the time, the healthcare industry is uh, the biggest labor industry in the country by number of workers. So one in eight Americans works in healthcare. It's also an industry where we have tremendous, huge labor shortages, right? Like our demand for healthcare as a country keeps growing. Our population is aging. It's putting more and more strain on the US healthcare system. And we as a country have not done a great job of increasing the number of healthcare workers to meet that demand. So we were very familiar with that huge, supply demand imbalance. As far as just like what else is out there, it was primarily just job boards, which is, it's technology from 20 plus years ago, which are very tough when there's big shortages, because from an employer perspective, you're posting a job and hoping all works out, which is really tough when there's huge shortages. And then similarly on the talent side or on the candidate side, the healthcare workers were saying, I apply to 10 places. I usually don't even hear back.
Mm.
Right. And then came our unique insight, so there was a few unique things that we did with Incredible Health that where we believed it was at least 10x better than what's already out there. And one was having employers apply to the talent instead of the other way around. Um, so we really flipped the script, flipped it around. Instead of waiting for healthcare workers to apply to employers, have the employers apply to the healthcare workers because of the supply demand dynamics. We also worked on automating the matching and automating the screening because of where software was at that time and still today. I mean, we had the ability to do that at scale. And so those are some of the initial insights that we had come up with. And so ultimately decided to pursue the idea based on that. Of course, we did a little bit of customer research too. We spoke with health system executives, we spoke with nurses, and really, heard the urgency in their voice. It was almost like an emotional experience for them in terms of just the problems that they're tackling and that they're having with hiring in general.
I imagine that part of the advantage of the pivot also was you went from pitching software to thousands upon thousands of prospective customers who were not all that practiced in evaluating new software systems and what have you. And all of a sudden, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're pitching like Kaiser. You're pitching huge healthcare companies that have this massive need for talent, and we have a talent shortage. So, was part of it also that you saw that your sales channels and sales cycles would be cleaner and shorter? Was that part of the insight as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great thought. I mean, one key learning that was definitely one of our learnings. And selling in the enterprise world, you are working with a more sophisticated set of buyers. Um, and that meant for us, we really had to have. It wasn't just about having an awesome product that works. We have to have a amazing business case and ROI, and all of that had to be put in place too.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm curious as you were looking at the marketplace, and well, obviously there's LinkedIn, and obviously there's ZipRecruiter and other, platforms that do this. This is what they do. They've done this for a long time. What did you see that you could do 10x better than the existing platforms for job applicants, for recruiting, et cetera, in healthcare specifically?
Yeah. So for the first was the vertical focus on just healthcare, right? One of the complaints our customers have, like the health systems have, is that these horizontal marketplaces, like LinkedIn and ZipRecruiter and so on, are not necessarily customized for healthcare. The reason that matters is healthcare is a regulated industry. You have to, the healthcare workers have licenses and certifications and so on. That all of that matters. So that was one piece. The second piece was just the employers applying to the talent instead of the other way around. So it's a completely
Mhm.
different experience. And as you can imagine, for healthcare workers, they absolutely love it, right? They create a profile, they sit back and relax. They get interview requests. They get to decide which interviews they accept or decline. And we're often described by healthcare workers as this was the best job search experience of my entire career. We have thousands of five-star reviews across Google and Facebook and the App Store with them describing about what an amazing experience and what a delightful experience it's been. The other insight that we had was just around the automation of screening and of matching. And that's really what brings a enormous benefit to the employers in particular, as well as to the healthcare workers. For the employers, it's usually a very small team internally that's trying to hire like a lot of roles. And we started with nursing. We've now expanded to technicians and technologists. But it was usually at that time. It was one recruiter would be trying to fill 100 roles in nursing, um, in a highly competitive market. And so they very much value the fact that the talent was pre-screened and pre-vetted and custom matched to their needs.
Yeah. And the one of the challenges of building a two-sided marketplace is it's like you can't open a nightclub and not have patrons there. It feels really weird to show up and be one of six people there. So when you were building this and you were getting at least some positive feedback on the demand side, right? On the employer side, how did you go about filling up the candidate pool quickly enough so that the employers were able to screen through these candidates at volume and be able to say, "Oh no, these are the 10 we're desperate to talk to."
Yeah, so we honestly use a lot of the classic tactics that other two-sided marketplaces in Silicon Valley use. So first and foremost, we made sure we were geographically constrained. So for
Mhm.
example, in the first 2 years of this business, we were only in California. Like Incredible Health was only available in the Bay Area and the LA area. That's it for 2 years. And it wasn't until our third year that we started expanding to other states. The reason that mattered a lot is to build up the supply and demand at the same time in a constrained way, because we were limited on resources at the time as well. At the time, the team is like less than 10 people. I think we'd raised a $2 million seed round, but like that was it. Um, we also wanted to make sure that our product and operations were good enough to drive success for both sides of our marketplace, and that was an enormous amount of product development and operational work that had to happen at the time. It was wonderful working with those early adopter health systems then, because they were very engaged and understanding of what was happening, and I consider them some of our development partners. Like they were influencing our product and our operations at the time too.
Will you tell us how you landed your first employer side partner and then how you engaged them to help evolve your product roadmap?
Yeah. So, okay, we've now grown to over 1,500 hospitals. We work
It's a
with
lot of
It's
hospitals.
a lot of hospitals in the US, and the largest, we work with the largest health systems, including Ascension and Trinity and HCA, and we work with many community hospitals. We also work with many academic medical centers like in New York Presbyterian and NYU and Cedar Sinai and many others like that. So if I sort of rewind back to the early days, I think we got the very first health system through cold calling. We didn't have a sales team at the time, so it was just me. And I would spend hours each day cold calling, cold emailing, and got a hold of someone. I still remember her name. Her name was Gloria.
And what was Gloria's role at HCA?
Gloria's a recruiter.
God bless Gloria.
Yeah, a very experienced recruiter. And so I sort of explained what we're up to. At the time, we don't have a fancy deck and presentation. There's none of that. It's just a conversation. They helped us really improve our reporting, our analytics, how to explain and the return on investment and the business case. So we just stayed in really close touch with both groups of users.
Yeah.
We were probably in touch with our customers, every single week. Honestly, look, 7 years later, I'm still speaking with customers almost every day, right?
Yeah.
I still listen to recordings of our team's call with the healthcare workers, So one of our and the number one value at Incredible Health company value we have is customer obsession. Like do whatever you can to delight your users, and that's like firmly embedded in our culture and the way we do our work. And so we encourage, and that's a value that's required of every single team. This isn't just for the product team. This is for everyone, operations, finance, everybody. Yeah.
I imagine as a founder and CEO, and I'm also imagining your investors, your early investors, saying, "Look, this is great. You're establishing product market fit. You're growing these geographically constrained ways so that we're making sure that we're serving both sides of the marketplace well. But hey, we're 2 years in, and we're in two markets in California, and it is a competitive marketplace. And presumably, the ZipRecruiters and others of the world are seeing what you're doing and would at least be contemplating whether they could compete with you in California and nationally. Were you worried about others jumping ahead of you in the broader national market, or did you feel you had such a competitive advantage that you could take your time to really get it right in California before you expanded?
Yeah, I mean, look, my perspective on competition is it's good to be aware of them and to study them and learn from them. But I really don't think founders and CEOs should be obsessing or focusing very much on them. I think the obsession needs to be on the customers, not on the competition.
So I want to drill into this for a second because I imagine if you'd waited 5 years to go beyond California, that would have been too long, right? Because others would have caught up and what have you. Um, and I'm curious if you had investors or advisors who were encouraging you to scale fat, like let's scale this thing, let's go, let's get out there and beat the market. How did that play out for you, and how did you know when it was time to go outside of California and go more national?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll start by saying like this is the benefit of having really high quality investors. I work with James Joaquin at Obvious Ventures, who's another OG, been doing the internet thing since the late '90s, and he's built seven
Who's a great guy. He and his wife Zem are phenomenal people.
They're awesome. And James has built like 7 companies, right? He had a whole operating career before his investing career. And then also I work with Jeff Jordan and Andreessen Horowitz. So Jeff Jordan was the CEO of OpenTable.
Yeah.
So honestly, I had very good investors who know a ton about not just software and the internet, but also about marketplaces. Um, with the benefit of their advice, right? We wanted to make sure that the marketplace was working well in 2 geographies, at least, before we scale it further. And this was very specific, like, I'm referring to our unit economics, I'm referring to our margins per hire, I'm referring to, the volume of hires that are happening, like, really and as well as the qualitative feedback of this is an amazing experience, from the cut from both sides of the platform too. Um, it came to be so I never really got a ton of pressure from investors to expand rapidly until we got to stronger metrics. Once we got to the stronger metrics, then that actually triggered me to raise our Series A. which was another $15 million. And with that, we expanded to more states. Um, the other thing that to be honest, like thinking back to that time, it was actually our customers that were pushing us to to expand beyond California more than our investors. Especially with some of the bigger health systems we were working with, they were like, "This is working great in California. Like, when are you coming to Texas and Nevada and et cetera?" So we had to actually tell our customers, like, hold your horses. Like, we got to address a few things, and then we'll support you. But it was a great way to grow because we were able to grow and expand to other states with our customers.
Yeah, and wonderful that you know the demand is there before you even show up there. The model for Incredible Health is interesting because only one side of this marketplace pays, if I understand it correctly. Is that right? So how does the business model actually work?
Yeah. So, okay, Incredible Health today is now the largest software and AI enabled career marketplace for healthcare workers. The business model is based on employers paying. So employers are able to benefit enormously from this, from Incredible Health. Specifically, what I'm referring to is we've achieved a days to hire of 20 days on average on the platform, which is compared to the national average of 80 days for experienced and specialized nurse hiring is really strong. We also drive really strong ROI for them, specifically around cost savings. So for every hospital we work with, we save them at least $5 million a year because by hiring permanent nurses faster from Incredible Health, they're able to reduce their temporary labor and overtime costs. And for the employers, it's honestly a no-brainer. Like, the ROI is so strong that is why they pay for Incredible Health. And so as a result, we've been able to effectively subsidize the healthcare worker side, so we can provide all kinds of free tools and services to the healthcare workers. Um, and that piece has been really important to our strategy too. For the healthcare workers, it Incredible Health is more than just about finding a job. It's about managing their career. So we provide a whole range of free tools and services to the healthcare workers, including continuing education and salary estimators, and a community where they can ask each other for advice, and they get access to career coaches too that help them with interview preparation. I mean, it's a pretty full suite of services on the healthcare worker side that helps give them a more delightful experience too.
You have 1,500 employers on the platform. Is that right? And some of those are very big organizations. How many on the employee side? How many on the candidate team member side?
Yeah, so we have over 1 million nurses on the platform.
That's a lot of nurses.
It's a lot. One in three nurses in the country uses Incredible Health to manage their careers.
Extraordinary. And this is just in about 7 years that you've done this. You said that you're a big fan of 5 and 10 year plans, and we're in a world where it's hard to see what's coming 6 months from now, much less 5 years down the road. When you look out 5 years for Incredible Health, what do you see?
We're continuing to pursue the same vision and mission of helping healthcare professionals live better lives and helping them find and do their best work. We continue to be very customer obsessed, and that company value continues. Um, we in 5 years we will be in more categories, more than just nurses and technicians, and more than just hospitals and surgery centers and home health. Our goal ultimately is to be in all aspects of healthcare, on the employer side and on the healthcare worker side. And then we will also be embracing the latest and greatest technologies in order to deliver our service. So yeah, a lot exciting. The next 5 years will be very exciting.
So you're focused on the healthcare sector. Understand that relentless focus on the category. If you were advising a company that's trying to do something similar in a completely unrelated category, what would you say they have to do to make this a better experience, both for the employers trying to recruit and for the prospective team members they're going after?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll answer that question in a way that's maybe advice for all hiring. So even at Incredible Health, we have to hire for our team as well. Look, there's a whole range of best practices out there. Um, Speed is a key one. Moving candidates through your process, not ghosting them, ensuring they're clear on what the next step is, having a really clear process internally, like all that really does matter and drives a real very delightful candidate experience. I think being very clear about what you're actually looking for and defining your role accurately is important as well in terms of what are the must-haves versus the nice-to-haves. We ran into this issue a lot in healthcare, and we run into it in tech as well, where hiring managers and leaders can put all kinds of criteria, and which can just kill a pipeline or a funnel. And we need to really ask ourselves the tough questions like, do we really need all of this criteria to get the right person? And then another one is just also related to processes to just have very clear timelines as well. There should be the amount of time to complete a phone screen, to complete a hiring manager interview, to get an offer out. They should be relatively short timelines, and so candidates can get through within days, not weeks or months. So those are all just tips that we've learned.
Your is your dad still with us?
He is, yeah.
And he's a doctor. W- is he proud of the work you're doing? How is it when you talk to him about the work that you're doing as a healthcare professional who focused presumably on individual patients, seeing your impact on an entire nation's healthcare system? What's that like for him?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, both my parents are proud of what we've done. Um, I think that in the early days they were a little skeptical, like, is this a real thing? Like, is this you're not working a normal job? Like there was definitely a little bit of skepticism in the first few years. But once we really got going, and certainly once the press started, paying attention, that's when they were like, oh, okay, this is real. This is actually happening.
You're a doctor. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
here
my
we
dad
are.
does not talk to me about doing an anesthesiology residency anymore.
And even with the million nurses you have on the platform, and this radically better way of going through a job search process on both sides, we have a real nursing shortage in this country. We have a real healthcare worker shortage in this country. What do you see as some of the solutions for that broadly? And what can Incredible Health do to help there, aside from creating a great experience in the job search process?
Yeah, for healthcare workers, let's first just examine the bottlenecks. Like, what is stopping us from increasing the number of healthcare workers in this country? Uh, n- uh, one area is that it's important to point out that there's actually quite a lot of demand from Americans to get into nursing and some of these other professions. For example, for nursing schools, there's wait lists of tens of thousands of Americans who want to get in, but they can't get in. So we have a really big bottleneck at the school level.
And they can't get in because there just aren't enough slots. We haven't made the system efficient enough for the training for us to take the number of people who want the training.
Yeah, so the number of I'm referring to nursing schools and technician schools. There's not enough faculty to teach. There's also not enough schools. Period. There's not enough slots openings to take on to train more. And so that's a huge bottleneck. Another bottleneck that's happening is right after school, because school is just the beginning. You actually have to end up getting trained and getting specialized and so on. And there's just not enough programs and employers that are willing to invest in training. And then another big bottleneck and problem is that this is an aging workforce. So
Mm.
there's 25% of nurses are expected to retire in the next 5 years. So those are the underlying problems that we're having. And so there's a whole range of solutions to addressing those problems, and it's going to take all of us to do that. It's going to take industry like us, like Incredible Health, plus the role of local, state, and federal governments. I mean, it's pretty important even for a government to be providing healthcare and having a strong U.S. healthcare system. And then certainly, the private sector, public sector, we all have to participate in driving these solutions.
One could imagine Incredible Health thinking about vertically integrating and helping solve the education and training problem.
That's
Is
right.
that is that is that on the roadmap for you all?
Yeah, we've actually already been on this journey. We're on this journey already. So we've provide, for example, we provide continuing education to nurses inside our apps. And look, continuing education is it's at the end of the day, it's content that's accredited, and it's needed to renew and activate their licenses too. And to the extent that we can continue to provide more and more training in a remote way, in a digital way, even in an AI way, I think that will help a lot. There's a fascinating company I just want to mention called Stepful. which is providing AI training for healthcare workers. There's going to be more. We need more and more ideas like that. And we're definitely at Incredible Health. We're definitely going to be engaging in a lot of that activity.
Well, I look forward to reading about your acquisition of Stepful soon. A few sort of quick lightning round questions for you. When you are stuck, when you are not sure what to do, and you've probably talked it through with your co-founder Rome, because it sounds like that's your first and last. Who do you call?
So I have a whole leadership team, which is awesome. It's like a luxury to have an amazing, CFO and chief revenue officer and HR leader and so on. So I have a very strong leadership team that I work with. I also externally I have advisors and board members. Jeff Jordan and James Joaquin are still two of my key advisors, and they're both on our board as well. Um, and then I also work with the Base 10 team as well. They led our Series B. They've been phenomenal to work with too. And then finally, just more personally, I have an executive coach, and that's been really helpful too.
How did you find your coach?
Referrals, so referrals from other CEOs.
And what's the thing that you have that's most valuable that you've taken from your coaching experience?
I think that it reminds me. The benefits of it remind me a little bit of the benefits of psychotherapy too. I think it's important to be able to discuss, maybe even vent to people that are not our family members and not our friends and sometimes not even our coworkers. And so he's been a great outlet. And the other thing is that they just provide additional perspective that you may not even be thinking of. And that's been really helpful. Increasingly, my role as CEO has moved more and more towards more people-oriented um, opportunities and challenges than just purely, product operations customers, right? So I've had to evolve my professional development very, very rapidly while growing this company too.
Yeah. What's one book that's helped you on your journey that you recommend to others?
So I have a couple of them. One, I love Ben Horowitz's Hard Things About Hard Things because it really describes like how insane the journey is to building a company. And, as much as I say, like it all looks like sunshine and rainbows on the outside, but we've had, there were a lot of challenges while building this, but while building Incredible Health. And that book really, really shows it. Another one is by Bill Walsh, the former coach of the San Francisco 49ers. It's called The Score Will Take Care of Itself. And it just really highlights the importance of having great process, great systems, and great culture. And if you can set that up really well, then the outcomes are inevitable. And the results will come. So that's another recommendation.
I love that. Okay. And last question for you. Um, if you could wave a magic wand and fix one thing about American healthcare today, what are you doing?
I think that's the two biggest problems in American healthcare today is access and cost. And if I could wave a magic wand, I would solve, if there's a way to solve access issues where every American can get access to high quality healthcare, no matter where they live, no matter where they work, that would be amazing. And then our costs it's been really, really challenging just to looking at the trends over the last couple of decades to manage costs in healthcare. And it's already 21% of GDP and growing. And so I don't know where we're headed here, but it just seems like we might be on an unsustainable path on the cost side.
Let's get you that magic wand.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us. Appreciate you. By listening to the pain points that nurses and hospitals faced around hiring, Iman Abuzeid has built an innovative job marketplace for some of the very most important people in our economy, our healthcare professionals. It's a game changer, both for workers and for the employers. And it's a testament to how every industry has outdated systems worth disrupting, if you know where to look. I'm Jeff Berman. Thank you for listening.